Hello, everyone. I'm Glen, Guyton, your cultural competency navigator. And today I want to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. So I brought in a good friend of mine, Crystal Joseph. Crystal, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Crystal, well, tell us a little bit about yourself so people can catch up with who you are.
Sure. So I am a licensed therapist in Maryland and Virginia. I'm also an approved clinical supervisor in both states. So all that means is I have interns and residents that I train to be the next up and coming therapist. I love cooking and I love thrift store and vintage shopping.
All right. And I know you're a great cook. I've eaten some of your food before. I miss, we used to hang out when you were a little younger, hang out on the holidays. So I missed that. But thank you for joining me today and helping me a little bit with this topic. You know, I've noticed that as things have gotten more intense, especially, you know, after the George Floyd incident, after just the numerous things that happened in 2020, people are looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion in different ways. And one of the things I've been hearing a little bit about is emotional intelligence. Can you just tell us from your professional point of view a little bit about what emotional intelligence is?
Sure. So it's the ability to have, let's see, the wherewithal or a standard in how you negotiate the emotions of others as well as
Okay.
yourself in the space together.
Okay. And so now that's a big thing now because normally, now I don't know if people have been connecting emotional intelligence and working, you know, across cultures or with diversity and inclusion, but now it seems more people are like starting to connect those things. And do you think they fit together?
Yes, they do actually, and I'm glad that the wool has been pulled off, because that's going to be the crux of how you are able to sympathize or empathize with someone who doesn't look like you or doesn't have the same background as you or they grew up in a different region.
Hmm.
You're going to have some of that foundation before you can start to realize and understand what they're experiencing.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it, right? I mean, we've talked about race and identity in just so many different weird ways, and I'm glad we're getting a better understanding of it now. But I think we thought kind of like, well, if I don't hate somebody, you know, I'm not racist or I'm not sexist or I'm not homophobic. But that doesn't really mean that you can kind of put yourself in that person's shoes or empathize with that person or really just kind of get a sense of how they see the world. So man, yeah, so like when you talk about empathy, I mean kind of how would you define like empathy?
It's kind of like a sixth sense.
Mhm.
Um, some people have a larger capacity to do so,
Okay.
whereas others have next to none. And the hope is you eventually can enlarge that scope.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's the ability to just kind of nod your head and understand and respect it. I think respecting and understanding are two very important pillars of that. You may not agree with it,
Okay.
but the fact that you can see where someone else is coming from and possibly empathize and say, okay, maybe I've experienced this, maybe I haven't,
Hmm.
um, but this is rooted in your cultural viewpoint, maybe different from mine, but I respect that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think some people, when you say, "Oh, I respect that," that means that you have to like accept everything about somebody else's culture. I mean, you don't, right?
No,
I mean, we
yeah,
talked a little bit about food, and I think, I mean, I don't know if you mind me saying it. Your
yeah,
husband is
sure.
Haitian, right?
He, yes, he is.
So he eats probably eat like fish. Does he like y'all like a lot of fish and seafood?
Yes, a lot of fish, a lot of seafood, a lot of rice. I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to think different than what we had growing up. Some of the fruits and vegetables I had never really eaten until we started dating.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, yeah, just
It's
different.
and so now, do you like all of it, or is some of it's kind of like, I can't deal with that.
I like most of it. There are a couple of things that are staple, like cultural staples, that I
Yeah,
just haven't developed the taste for, or
right.
I don't like. And not to be rude, his
Yeah,
family they tease me now, but it's just my palate. It just
you,
doesn't taste good to me.
you're right. It does not, it's right. It doesn't connect with you in the same way that he connects with him, right? So that's why
Hmm.
I like sometimes food. I think you could almost now. This is just me. This may not be in your professional journals, but like food is very much rooted in our culture, and it can even relate to some of that emotional intelligence because
Yeah.
if we didn't grow up with that, like whatever that flavor profile in, you know, it
Hmm.
it could put us off.
It does,
And
yeah.
even like I know some of the people in the more Caribbean regions, they'll eat like a lot of seafood. They'll like keep the heads and stuff on it. I don't know, just
Yes.
keep the head. See, like I can't deal with that. I don't want my food looking at me. Like your food can look at you, but I don't want my food looking at me.
Yes. Now, in our current household,
Okay,
we cut the heads
you cut the
off.
heads off, right? Right.
Now that we've learned, and I've learned how to prepare those dishes. But when I'm home with him, with his elders and his family,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes the head is on.
All right, all right. And so you've adapted, you've made some accommodations for your family, and even so and when you're in with his family, you make accommodations. So I think
Right.
that's a very important lesson for us as we think about emotional intelligence, as we think about diversity and inclusion, that it's about learning other people's culture. It's about sometimes developing those taste profiles per se. I hate to make it just as simple as food because I know it's more
No,
complex than that.
no, that's great, but I think that's a great point. And then you can build up, say, like how you season it.
Yeah,
You and I might season stuff differently because we also grew up in different places
right,
of the
right. Because
United States.
you probably use Old Bay, right?
Yeah, I do. I don't have it in the house currently.
Oh, okay, okay. I use Tony Zachary, so down south. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've been hearing about that.
Yeah,
All right,
Tony,
all
you gotta
right.
get you some Tonys. Okay.
Okay, I'm a Spice Sweet girl because
Okay.
we live close to her shop now. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And so you were saying that yeah, we may have different, even the way we season the same food may be different because we grew up in different regions.
But it doesn't negate the fact that we both have to eat. It's a
Yeah.
life sustaining process. And also, it's like to your point of maybe, not agreeing with it, but you respect it. Like I might try this one thing you put in front of me because
Hmm.
it's new to me, but I don't know that I don't like it yet. And then once
Yeah.
I taste it and I'm like, I don't care for it. It's not good for me. And
Yeah.
so then I can make a decision to say, I respect the fact that you eat it, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to partake.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. And I think that's how we have to look at these, some of, as we interact with each other, these interpersonal relationships, are actually intercultural relationships. And we don't always realize that. It can be, both of us are black, but again, you grew up in Virginia. I grew up in Texas. Now I moved to Virginia, stayed there for a
Yeah.
while. And there's some things I really like about Virginia, but I still think the barbecue in Virginia is horrible because I
I
grew up.
know how you feel.
Carolina barbecue is just, I don't know. It's an abomination. I tell people it's not real barbecue.
Oh,
That's a little judgy, right? That's not good from a diversity and inclusion expert to say that, but it is. It's an abomination, though.
but I can't agree or disagree with that because I've had your version of barbecue.
Yeah,
I've had the barbecue I've known and grown up with all my life.
right,
And
right.
then we've gone around and tried things, but I'm always willing to try something new to see.
Yeah, yeah. And we've learned things from each other from cooking. And I know, like they say, hey, this is a cooking show. I came to hear about emotional intelligence. Now it's turned into a cooking show. But okay, but like just say cooking is like the social skills we pick up from
Right?
different. We have different ways of interacting, different ways of cooking. We were talking about something the other day. I can't even remember what it was, Crystal. It was about something. You said, oh well, I know it was shrimp and grits. We were talking about
Oh
shrimp and
yes,
grits.
yes.
And so you said that for your shrimp and grits, did you say you put some sour cream in it? Is that
I
what?
do. I
Yeah, I think
do.
it's so. Well, let me add a little sour cream. Let me check that out. It was actually good, right? I could take it or leave it, but it did add another little level of creaminess, right? A little extra
Mhm.
flavor profile. And so
Mhm.
I wish that as people thought about diversity, equity, inclusion, that they wouldn't see it as a you win, I lose type of thing, but it's more like, hey, you could add an additional flavor profile to what I do. I can learn something from you. You can learn something from me. Now, I may not adapt every piece of your culture, but I can start leveraging those differences. I can learn different ways of interaction that may be foreign to me, but they're quite natural to you. So, but it shouldn't be
Yeah.
perceived as a threat.
Yes, that is correct. And I also think, I know we're all stuck at home right now, but
Mhm.
when you travel, you get to see that where there's a level of complexity, like what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And you kind of, Google, okay, where am I going?
Hmm.
What can I wear? What can I wear?
Right,
What
right,
are the foods like? What's the climate like? You're trying to gauge it, but it's not until you get there and experience it that you've gained the profile of that travel
right,
experience
right.
in the country. And then you're more, um, you're more, I guess, astute in that. However, what I will say is just because you spent 2 weeks in a particular country doesn't mean that you are an expert there. So I
Okay.
think that's something to say about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
You can add these profiles, but don't think that you're an expert on something that just because you've only been there for 2 weeks or you've
Right,
only had
right.
this one training for 3 hours.
Like you went to Mexico, you ate a couple of tortillas or something, so now you think that you just an expert on Mexican culture, and or
Right.
you don't flew down to Jamaica, got your hair braided, so now you're a Rasta or something.
Yes, I miss Jamaica. Yes, love Jamaica.
We went to Jamaica together, didn't we? Did we go to Jamaica together?
No, that was the older group.
Oh,
That was
okay, okay.
I was too
All right,
young then. Yeah.
all right. So, so part of that makes me think about then self-awareness, because we always think like when it's diversity and inclusion, we always focus on the other person, right? We're always focused
Mhm.
on what the other person is doing or what the other person is thinking. But how would you say self-awareness plays into this?
Um, you kind of need to know who you are
Mm,
and where you stand and sit
okay.
within your own space, but also against whatever else you're judging, and against not in a negative way, but
Right,
just
right.
as you face the other
Yeah.
party or situation. This can affect your thoughts, weaknesses, self confidence,
Mm,
and also embracing your, well, knowing your strengths, but embracing your limitations, right? So
okay.
like I know that I know you run.
Yeah.
I'm not a good runner,
Yeah.
but I don't like it, but I would rather lift weights than
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to put a dog behind me to get me to run. The
Okay.
dog
Okay.
has
I
to
got
be
you. I got
chasing me. So I've embraced my limitations, but I know where my strength lies or what my potential is. So self-awareness is very important when you look at emotional intelligence and
Okay.
the other factors of it, because I feel like if you don't have that, then you really can't have much of anything.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And the fact, Crystal, that I do some running doesn't is that a threat to you at all?
No, it's not at all. It's just what works for you.
It's right. It works for me, and it doesn't displace our gifts. As a matter of fact, Chris, I'm calling on you because you have a specific set of gifts that I don't have, right? And so I can
Hmm.
call you and talk to you. I mean, we're friends. We're from different generations.
Hmm.
We do different things with different genders. Different
Hmm.
life experiences. But I can say, hey, I have this friend, Crystal Joseph. She's an expert. When it comes to dealing with these I guess these thought issues, as a
Hmm.
therapist, she talks about people in their brain. Now I may think I know some things, because like I know a little bit. I've done some research, but you
Yeah.
are the expert, so I can call on you. I can enhance what I do by talking to someone like you, and I
Hmm.
wish more people would understand that's what diversity and inclusion is all about. It's not about, oh, we're gonna promote this woman, that means this man can't get a job, or we're promoting Mexicans and blacks, so all the white people are out of work. No, no, it's not like that. It's like, hey, we have a bigger pool of talent to pull from, and that diversity can be, I mean, it could even be within our own racial or gender identities. There's still
Hmm.
diversity in those things, but we
Yep.
have to realize how to leverage them, and utilize those things, not in a selfish way, but in a way that helps us all grow and prosper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's enough room for everyone at the table. And I also think that, in my industry, some of my colleagues, we have a hashtag that we use called community over competition. And so it's
Community
developed,
competition. Okay.
and it's developing that unity in order to commune so that we're not competing against one another, but we're serving the greater good of everyone.
Man, community over competition. I'm gonna have to use that one.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is that you said that's an industry term that you all use?
No, no, no. It's just a hashtag. You can search it on
Okay.
Instagram or what have you. I don't know that anyone has trademarked it. I could be
Okay.
misspeaking, but yeah.
Community over competition. I like that.
Mhm.
That's a good healthy way to think about diversity, because we're all part of like micro communities, and then we have these macro
Mhm.
communities that we're part of. And so figuring out how to work within those, I think, is very healthy. So if I wanted to uh, get better at my emotional intelligence, is there a test I can take, a book I can read? How do I become more intelligent emotionally? And maybe one other question: is it possible for everybody?
So there's not a hard and fast rule. Anything with learned behavior takes some unlearning, or if
Okay.
you're not as um, keen on something, you're going to take some time to develop.
Okay.
I would say giving and receiving feedback
Oh,
um,
yeah.
within a certain space, whether it's at work or within your own
Hmm.
relationships, whether platonic or intimate.
Right.
Um, but also, there are short forms, possibly on Psychology Today or by the originator, Dr. Goleman, who
Yeah.
developed, within positive psychology.
Yeah.
But be mindful that that is not the begin all end all. They're short
Okay.
form, they're valid and reliable, but they're going to give you tidbits, but then you have to do the work. And
Okay. So
something
they're
that I
like
talk.
short. You said they're like short
Mhm,
forms on the internet or something that you can find.
mhm,
Okay, like little
mhm.
quizzes. Okay.
Right. And then, something I tell my clients is, you can go to these experts to get the understanding and the information, but you have to put in the work. You have to
Okay.
do the work. So
Yeah.
the continuous um, understanding of that. And I think that the more you practice, the more
Uh,
perfect it gets. There
right.
is no perfect,
All right. All right.
but you gotta practice. And I know we had mentioned this in our in conversation earlier, but right now, give yourself some grace because there could be some
Mhm.
stagnation with it because
Yeah.
we're not interacting with each other as much as we used to be. So
Hmm.
in order to practice some of these tenets, you have to be around people or in a gathered space or physically at work in your cubicle with 20 other people around. And right now we don't have that.
Yeah.
So, be careful with your expectation of, well, I have to develop this skill set within the next 6 months. It might not happen within the next 6 months.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. I think you said something really important there. That you have to do the work uh, eventually, and like even organizations. I work with a lot of organizations. So
Hmm.
during diversity training, they want me to come in and give a like a hey, this is don't be racist speech, and
Right,
that's it.
right.
But it takes work. It takes work. It takes practice. It takes proper practice. That's why you need to call in professionals like Crystal or myself to help you with some of these things. I can help you with the systemic issues
Yeah.
and policies and procedures that will get you to the place you need to get to. But you can't ignore emotional intelligence. You can't ignore the individual work that needs to be done. So you need the systemic work that needs to be done in the workplace with organizations, but then you also need some help with the individual work that needs to be done because that's the only way you're going to change culture. I mean, you have this
Hmm.
corporate organizational culture. You may need to work with your CEOs, your board, to help them increase their level of intercultural competency and emotional intelligence and figure out how those
Right,
things tie together. Yeah, because people
right.
just really want to be quick and say, "Well, I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, or, I don't understand. Everybody can just do what they want to do." No, I'm not saying everybody can do what they want to do. You have to understand your flavor profile. I might have to start using your flavor
Yes.
profile as an organization,
Yeah.
and then what complements that, right? That's what it is about what
Absolutely.
complements that. Because you know, I mean, some organizations do need to be torn down and start over from
Revamp,
scratch.
just revamp.
Just,
Yeah, the
just,
whole
just,
thing.
just, just, just tear it down to the ground. I made a cake one time, Crystal. Uh, and you would think like if you just forget like a teaspoon of salt that it would make a difference. You had to throw the whole cake away, right?
Yes, you
You don't
do.
put
You
salt in,
do.
you had to throw the whole cake away. So I had to throw a whole cake away and start over because I forgot one little ingredient. So you have to think about that in your organization. Sometimes you're just missing the essential ingredient. You just need to throw it away. But sometimes, if you make a cake and it kind of doesn't come out right, it's a little unlevel, you just put a
Mhm.
little extra icing on it. Just put a little extra
Yeah.
icing on it. That'll balance it out. Just cut off
That's
the burnt
true.
part. So
Yes,
sometimes you
I've
can
done
do
that.
that and salvage it, but organizations just have to figure out what's appropriate. But Crystal, we need to
Mhm.
figure out like a program to help these people, right? We need
Sure.
to combine our forces like the Wonder Twins.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important in what you touched on with the systemic issues and following up with the organization. I also think it's important. So when I'm trained as a therapist, something that we're taught, well, depending on where your placement site is, but something I learned along my trajectory was treatment plans and other check-ins are done quarterly. So
Okay.
you can't hire someone like Glenn, like
Okay.
yourself, and say, come in and do this speech, but then not follow up with him to have a check-in with your staff and your employees and your
Right.
C-suite after 3 months because there needs to be a check-in.
Right.
You're unlearning behaviors, you're promoting behaviors, and it's a company, so I assume you're growing. People are leaving, people are coming.
Yeah.
So they didn't get the old training, that you previously
Yeah. Yeah.
gave. So I think it's important there needs to be some consistency there because that's the only
Yep.
way that you're going to be able to affirm, that practice and that mindset and have pristine emotional intelligence.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's perfect, Crystal. So I'm gonna that'll be our kind of closing thought. But it's important that these trainings are, regular, they're predictable, they're ongoing because, like Crystal said, there's a lot of turnover in organizations.
Hmm.
There's not a quick fix. You have to check in and see how people are doing, especially
Hmm.
now that we are disconnected, right? That we're not seeing
Yes.
each other every day. We're not getting to sharpen our skills. So you need ongoing, regular training. And I know, I offer some services there. Crystal offers some services. So,
Hmm.
if you need us, reach out. We are here for you. We'll put our contact information here so that you can follow up with us. But thank you so much, Crystal. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And next time I see you, we're going to have to eat
Yes,
some home cooking or something together.
yes, we will. All the things with all the seasoning.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Crystal. And I'm Glen Guyton, your cultural competency navigator. Thank you so much for joining Crystal and I today. You all have a great day.